Have you ever felt invisible in the eyes of your own child, as if everything you've done has faded into nothing? Have you ever wondered when love turned into indifference, when warm moments were replaced by cold silence? And most painfully, have you ever asked yourself, why doesn't my child see me anymore for who I truly am? If you answered yes, you are not alone. This silent heartbreak is more common than many dare to admit. You gave everything: time, sacrifice, endless love. You offered your best, year after year, with nothing but devotion in return. And yet, now you are met with short replies, distant glances, or worse, reproach and cold indifference. You may find yourself wondering, when did it all change? How did my child stop seeing the real me, the one who has always been there? This deep ache, this devastating sense of being unappreciated, can quietly hollow out your heart. But here's what you may not realize yet. The root of your pain is not only in your child's actions, it lies in what those actions awaken. Within you, frustration, resentment, and even a quiet sense of failure. Left unchecked, these emotions slowly and silently consume your inner peace. But it doesn't have to be this way. Through the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy, voices like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus offer profound answers to this challenge. These teachings, grounded in acceptance and clarity, guide us to stop depending emotionally on others, even our own children, and reclaim the serenity that no one should have the power to take from us. I'm Gabriel, and if this is your first time here, I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Stay with me until the end of this video, because today we're going deep. Together, we will explore how to release yourself from this pain and take back control of your emotional life. So let's begin, starting with the first and perhaps most poisonous trap. Number 1, the poison of unmet expectations. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, after all I've sacrificed, the least my child could do is show respect and appreciation? It's natural to want recognition after sleepless nights, endless worries, and unconditional love. But when your child responds with indifference or even criticism, the pain feels unbearable. Because it doesn't just attack your actions, it strikes at your identity as a parent. This is where Stoicism offers a powerful insight. Expectation, especially the silent, hidden kind, is often the true source of suffering. Picture this. In everything you've done, perhaps without realizing, you've painted a picture in your mind of how your child should repay you. With love, with gratitude, with time and care. Especially as you grow older, it's normal to wish for these things. But trouble arises when we turn those wishes into unspoken obligations. Seneca wisely warned, the greatest obstacle to living is expectation, which depends on tomorrow and wastes today. Each time we bind ourselves to how things should be, we step away from the present and from reality. Your children have their own paths, their own worldviews, ones that may not mirror your own. When they don't meet your silent hopes, it feels like theft, as if the love and respect you deserve will never come back to you. This is why Epictetus's concept of the dichotomy of control is so valuable. There are things in life you simply cannot control, and your child's behavior, their choices, and views fall firmly in that category. When your happiness depends on their actions, you place your well-being into hands that were never yours to hold. Epictetus said it clearly. If you want to be invincible, don't fight against what depends. on others. So, how do you break this toxic cycle? Start by reflecting deeply. How much of your pain comes from expectations that may never be fulfilled? Think of the moments you've hoped, silently or openly, that your child would say thank you, show more affection, or acknowledge your sacrifices. When that didn't happen, it didn't just sting, it felt like a rejection of who you are. Consider Maria's story. She dreamed of weekends filled with visits from her son, of long talks where he would confide in her, of being the pillar he leaned on through life's storms. But her son chose another way. He distanced himself emotionally, prioritized his career, and focused on his personal life. Maria found herself waiting for a love that never arrived as she imagined. Her resentment grew quietly. Each unanswered message or skipped visit deepened the wound. But then, Maria made a choice. She stepped back. She realized her pain wasn't caused by her son's life decisions. It came from the expectations she had quietly built around him. By accepting she couldn't control his journey, she began to find peace. She rediscovered joy in the present. She learned to value herself again without waiting for something that may never come. This is the poison of unmet expectations. It quietly destroys your inner peace. But freedom begins when you release rigid ideas about how things should be. This doesn't mean you should stop wanting respect or love from your child. It simply means letting go of the idea that it must come exactly how or when you imagined. Love and gratitude may appear in ways you never expected or see, and when you free yourself from demanding their form, you allow yourself to see them in subtle, precious moments. This is one of Stoicism's most vital teachings. Don't let what you can't control steal your peace. When you release these expectations, you'll discover true freedom. True serenity is accepting life, people, and relationships as they are. Not as you wish they would be, but this leads us to the next great challenge. When does love, once unconditional, silently turn into emotional debt? In the next part, we'll face this difficult truth and learn how to free ourselves from it. Stay with me. Previously, we uncovered how painful, unmet expectations can quietly poison the bond between parent and child. But what happens when love itself shifts? When your giving becomes something heavier than devotion? It's time to face another hidden reality. When love quietly turns into emotional debt. As parents, we dedicate our lives to raising, protecting, and nurturing our children. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every worry or whine all came from love. So naturally we start to expect something in return: respect, gratitude, attention. After all, isn't it only fair? But here's where the problem begins. Love given with the silent expectation of something in return isn't unconditional anymore. It becomes something else entirely, an invisible weight, an emotional debt. Your child may never hear you say, "You owe me," but they can feel it. And this unspoken pressure can push them away. What should bring closeness suddenly creates discomfort. Instead of feeling free to love, your child might feel trapped by obligation. And this, though often hidden, quietly builds distance, not connection. The wisdom of Stoicism offers clarity here. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do good willingly and without expecting any reward." True love, the Stoics teach us, is given for its own sake. It is not transactional. When love becomes conditional, even subtly, it feels forced. And what feels forced eventually cracks. Imagine Rosa's story. She gave everything for her children. Her time, her health, her personal dreams, all sacrificed for them. In return, Rosa expected one thing, that when her children became adults, they would care for her, support her, and offer her the same attention she once gave. But life rarely follows the script we write. Her eldest son, Pedro, had his own path. He focused on his career, got married, and built a new life. Naturally, his priorities shifted, and Rosa felt abandoned. She never said it aloud, but deep inside, she felt he owed her. Every missed visit stung, every skipped phone call deepened her resentment. In time, this silent bitterness became obvious, not in harsh words, but in subtle remarks and disappointed glances. Pedro, sensing the tension, began avoiding visits, not because he didn't care, but because every encounter left him feeling guilty and suffocated. Rosa's emotional debt was slowly driving them apart. What Stoicism teaches us here is crucial. Epictetus reminds us that we must act according to our values without attaching ourselves to how others respond. In simple words, you cannot control how your child sees your sacrifices. You cannot make them express love and gratitude in the exact way you hope. The only thing within your control is your choice to love without demanding repayment. When love becomes debt, it binds both sides. Your child may start to feel like they have to love you, visit you, care for you, but no one wants to love from obligation. Love that feels like duty, it becomes heavy. It becomes a burden. And burdens, even emotional ones, are often avoided. So, how do we free ourselves from this painful dynamic? It starts with this simple but powerful truth. Your sacrifices were your choice. Every act of love you gave, every decision, every effort, you made them freely out of love, not because you were forced to, and not because your child signed an invisible contract to repay them. True love doesn't ask for anything in return. When you release the need for a specific result, you also release yourself from bitterness, and you free your child from emotional debt. This does not mean you should tolerate mistreatment or disrespect. It means your emotional well-being should not depend on receiving affection in a certain way. Instead, it should come from the quiet peace of knowing you did the right thing, simply because you chose to love. Seneca said it beautifully. The wise man is satisfied to do good without needing recognition. When you let go of the need for reward, something shifts. Your child no longer feels pressured, and from this freedom, a more genuine connection can bloom. One based on choice, not duty. Because love that is freely given and freely returned is the only kind that truly lasts. But this brings us to the next difficult truth. What happens when the root of disrespect isn't about love at all, but about something deeper? The absence of boundaries. In the last part, we uncovered how love, when tied to expectations, can quietly turn into emotional debt, driving a wedge between parent and child. But what happens when love isn't just about expectations, but about something even deeper? When respect starts to fade because healthy boundaries were never set. Let's dive into this painful but necessary truth. Main story: the hidden cost of no boundaries. There comes a moment in every parent-child relationship when limits must be made clear. But when they aren't, that's when problems begin to silently grow. Carmen knows this all too well. For years, she gave freely. Whenever her son needed help, she was there. Money, given without question. Support, always. unexpected visits at odd hours, welcomed with a warm smile every time. She believed this was love. She believed she was building trust, closeness, and lifelong loyalty. But over time, something shifted. Her son began expecting her endless giving. He saw it not as kindness, but as his right. So when Carmen finally tried to say no, when she dared to set a limit, her son was offended. To him, it felt like a betrayal, as though she had suddenly broken a silent contract. But what really happened here? Carmen had unknowingly created this dynamic herself. By never establishing clear boundaries, she had taught her son that taking was normal and respecting limits was unnecessary. So when the rules suddenly changed, he didn't see it as a healthy adjustment. He saw it as rejection. Stoicism offers vital wisdom at moments like these. Epictetus once taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In our relationships, especially with our children, this lesson is key. It's not just about what they ask of us, it's about how we choose to respond, saying no, setting boundaries, and respecting your own needs. These are not acts of selfishness. They are acts of self-love and dignity. Boundaries serve a higher purpose than many realize. They don't only protect your emotional well-being, they also send a clear message. I love you, but my well-being matters too. Without boundaries, love becomes endless giving, and endless giving over time is not seen as love. It becomes taken for granted, expected, and eventually ignored. When you set healthy boundaries, you shift the dynamic. You remind your child that love is precious, not automatic. You show them that respect must go both ways. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He taught that self-governance, the ability to control your actions and emotions, is essential. You must not allow others, even those you love most, to dictate your self-worth. Setting boundaries isn't about detachment. It's about maintaining yourself so that your love comes from a healthy, balanced place, not from exhaustion or resentment. When a relationship lacks respect, it often traces back to the absence of clear limits. As mothers, many give so much that their children forget to value what's given. It becomes routine, expected, and invisible, but that can and should change. How do you shift this dynamic? By doing something that may feel uncomfortable at first, establishing firm, loving boundaries. This teaches your child that you are not an endless reservoir of time, energy, or emotional labor. They must respect your space, they must recognize your choices, and they must understand your well-being matters. Without boundaries, you invite disrespect. With boundaries, you invite respect, as Epictetus wisely put it. Freedom is the power to live as you wish. By setting limits, you gain freedom, and you give your child the chance to truly value what you offer, not as a duty, but as a gift. If you found this insight helpful so far, take a moment to subscribe and like this video. It supports our mission to bring Stoic wisdom into the real challenges of life. But don't stop now, because in the next part, we will tackle one of the most painful struggles of all. What happens when you keep seeking recognition from someone who simply can't or won't give it? Stay with me. This next truth may change everything. In the last part, we revealed a difficult truth. Boundaries are not about rejection. They are about teaching respect. But even after setting healthy limits, there's another silent pain many parents still carry deep inside. What happens when, despite everything you've done, the recognition and gratitude you long for never come? This is where we must face the next challenge. Letting go of the need for recognition from those who may not be ready to give it. Main story: seeking validation from those who can't give it. Freedom, as Epictetus teaches us, begins when we stop placing our worth in the hands of others. You cannot control what others think. You cannot force them to feel gratitude or see your sacrifices the way you do, but you can control how you choose to view yourself. Instead of endlessly waiting for your child to validate your efforts, instead of hoping for those long-awaited words of thanks, what if you took a step back and decided what I've done and who I am already hold value, no matter what anyone else says? This isn't easy. But as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When you constantly seek recognition from your child, you create a never-ending spiral. A loop filled with frustration, sadness, and silent pain. But when you choose to see your actions as valuable, regardless of external acknowledgement, you liberate yourself. You reclaim your peace. This shift of mindset changes everything. Choosing to stop seeking recognition doesn't mean you stop loving your child. It doesn't mean you give up on having a relationship with them. What it means is this: you are no longer letting their gratitude, or lack of it, determine your emotional well-being. You are no longer handing over your inner peace to someone else's approval. And ironically, when you stop waiting for validation, something remarkable can happen. The tension eases, the pressure fades, the relationship may begin to flow more naturally without the heavy burden of unspoken expectations. A timeless example can be found in Seneca's wisdom. He once said, "A wise man is content with doing what is right without needing a reward." Think about that for a moment. When you release the need to hear "thank you" or see constant appreciation from your child, you're not losing anything. You're gaining freedom. You are choosing to act according to your own values. You are choosing satisfaction that comes from within, knowing that you did what was right because it felt right to you. That kind of recognition, the recognition from yourself, is the most powerful of all. Here's the liberating truth. Your worth does not depend on your child's words or validation. You can't control whether they notice your sacrifices. You can't decide whether they will one day express their gratitude, but you can absolutely control how you let it affect you. When you stop waiting to be seen or appreciated in the way you expect, you stop suffering. You stop tying your joy to unpredictable moments, and you start living peacefully and on your own terms. This doesn't mean giving up on the relationship. It means freeing it. Letting go of recognition is not giving up. It's not resigning yourself to distance or coldness. It's simply releasing yourself from carrying the emotional burden of waiting for something that may never come. It's about turning your energy inward, focusing on what you can control: your well-being, your mindset, your ability to continue loving freely and without conditions. And sometimes, when you stop waiting, recognition may appear in ways you least expect, but if it doesn't, you will already know your worth was never defined by it anyway. And this leads us directly to the next lesson on perhaps the most empowering of all. Emotional independence is your greatest strength, because only when you release the weight of waiting for others can you truly stand on your own with unshakable peace and freedom. We just explored how letting go of recognition can free us from invisible burdens. But even as you release those expectations, another powerful challenge remains. How do you ensure that your happiness doesn't rise and fall with your child's every action or reaction? This is where emotional independence, your true inner strength, becomes essential. Main story. Emotional independence the quiet power. In moments of pain or frustration, practice this simple step. Pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, gently, am I letting this affect me more than it should? This brief moment of reflection helps you step back and regain control before emotions sweep you away. Next, cultivate a deeper connection with yourself. Spend time nourishing your own soul. You don't need others to do this for you. Read a book that stirs your thoughts. Meditate in silence and connect with your breath. Take a walk and listen to the natural rhythm of life. Exercise to strengthen not only your body but also your mind. These simple acts are not selfish. They are how you build resilience from within. And the stronger you become inside, the less sway the outside world has over your peace. But let's be clear, emotional independence is not isolation. It doesn't mean you stop loving your child. It doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you love them deeply, but from a place where your joy and balance do not depend on whether they call, visit, or show affection in the way you desire. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly. The soul is dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your thoughts shape your emotions. If your thoughts cling to things beyond your control, suffering grows. But if your thoughts embrace what is within your power, your soul is colored with peace, strength, and serenity. Emotional independence is not a rejection of love. It is love, but without chains. It allows you to continue giving from a place of fullness, not emptiness. To enjoy your child's presence when it's offered, but not fall apart when it's not. Why is this so important? Because emotional independence is more than a coping tool. It is a way of life, a conscious decision to reclaim your peace and free yourself from needless suffering. By breaking free from emotional dependency, you unlock something precious, the freedom to live fully. You no longer react emotionally to every disappointment or unmet expectation. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to manage what was never yours to control. You gain the power to stay steady, calm, dignified, and deeply rooted in yourself. A practical reminder: stay in the present. Seneca wisely warned us, the greatest obstacle to living is expectation, which depends on tomorrow and wastes today. Think about it. If you are always waiting for your child to behave in a certain way, to call, to appreciate, to change, you are robbing yourself of this very moment. You miss what is beautiful now. You waste energy hoping for a version of reality that may never come. Inner peace does not live in tomorrow's possibilities. It lives right here, in how you choose to experience this very moment. How to apply this daily. First, notice when you hand over your emotional power. Do you feel hurt when your child doesn't call? Do you ache when they don't act the way you hoped? Each time this happens, remind yourself, their behavior is outside your control, but your reaction, that is fully yours. Choose not to let it consume you. In doing so, you take back ownership of your emotional life. One decision, one thought, one breath at a time. But what about the things that truly hurt? The choices your child makes, the distance they create, or the paths they follow that you simply cannot change? In the next part, we will explore one of the most difficult but liberating Stoic lessons, the art of accepting what you cannot control. Because sometimes serenity is not about fixing, it's about gracefully letting go. In our last reflection, we explored how emotional independence helps you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of waiting for recognition. But even with independence, another quiet challenge lingers. How do you keep your heart soft and your mind clear when resentment quietly starts to grow? This leads us to one of the most essential lessons in any meaningful relationship, especially between a parent and a child. Main story: choosing serenity over resentment. Number 7. Choose serenity over resentment. This is easier said than done. When you feel ignored, misunderstood, or unappreciated by your child, resentment doesn't ask for permission. It sneaks in almost naturally as a shield, a defense mechanism against emotional pain. But here's the truth that Stoicism teaches us. Resentment may feel protective, but it only poisons the person who holds it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't be." At first glance, this might sound too simple. But what he means is powerful. Suffering does not come from what others do to us. It comes from how we interpret and respond to what they do. When you allow your child's coldness, silence, or indifference to disturb your inner world, you give away your power. You let them decide your emotional state, but Stoicism calls on you to take back control. You may not choose what your child says or does, but you can always choose how you feel about it. Why does resentment grow so easily? Because resentment is built layer by layer. Each time your child doesn't act as you hoped, each time they forget a call, skip a visit, or seem distant, another layer is quietly added. Over time, these layers become heavy, and soon resentment becomes an invisible wall, not only separating you from your child, but also stealing your own joy and serenity. But here's the hard truth: resentment doesn't punish those who hurt or ignore us. It punishes us. It keeps us trapped. It robs us of the peaceful, fulfilling life we deserve. So what's the solution? Choose serenity, intentionally. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you that harms you, but how you allow it to affect you. You may not be able to change your child's actions, but you can absolutely decide how much space their behavior occupies in your mind and heart. Instead of focusing on what's missing, the gratitude, the affection, the recognition, focus on what is still yours to control: your perspective, your attitude, your reaction. Imagine for a moment putting down the heavy backpack of resentment, not because you are giving up, but because you realize that carrying it only weighs you down. This is not about settling, it's about refusing to let someone else's actions dictate your happiness. A practical Stoic approach: negative visualization. Stoicism offers us a powerful exercise, premeditatio malorum, or reflecting on potential hardships. This doesn't mean becoming pessimistic. Instead, it's about preparing your heart. Imagine in advance that your child might not change, that gratitude or respect might never come in the way you hope. By doing this, you strip away the power of surprise and disappointment. You make peace with what might be so that when it happens, or doesn't happen, you remain steady. It's not passive resignation. It's active acceptance. As Seneca said, misfortune is not what happens, but how we bear it. Once you release resentment, life begins to look different. Even if your child doesn't show the affection you wish for, you'll begin to find beauty elsewhere. In your health, in your friendships, in your personal passions, in the simple joys that are always around, if you choose to see them. True, serenity is a shift of focus. It's about stopping the endless wait for others to meet your expectations, and instead beginning to live fully with what you already have. This doesn't mean ignoring the challenges in your relationship. It means no longer making your peace dependent on fixing them. And often, when you free your child from emotional pressure, you also free the relationship itself. This space can allow connection to grow naturally without the strain of unspoken demands. In the end, serenity doesn't come from changing others. It comes from changing your relationship with your own expectations and emotions. Marcus Aurelius reminds us again, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. If you choose to think from serenity, if you choose to release resentment, your life will become lighter, more joyful, and much less ruled by what others do, unshine, or don't do. Final reflection and smooth transition to closing. So in the end, remember, choose serenity over resentment, not just for your relationship with your child, but for your own peace, for your freedom, for your ability to live each day without carrying unnecessary weight. True love does not demand recognition or reward. It flourishes quietly, rooted in acceptance and understanding. Your happiness will not come from changing your child. It will come from changing how much power you give to their choices over your life. By practicing emotional independence, acceptance, and serenity, you unlock the keys to a fulfilled life, even in imperfect relationships. Outro. Closing the video powerfully. My name is Gabriel, and if this is your first time here, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss upcoming topics that will help you live with dignity and inner strength. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You are serious about your growth. To mark this moment, comment below. I'm Stoic, and share where you are watching from. I'd love to know who is walking this path of self-discovery with me. And before you go, share this video with someone who needs these words. Sometimes a simple perspective shift can change everything. See you in the next video, because this journey toward inner peace and wisdom has only just begun.